All of my friends say, when you know, every piece falls into place when I'm with you. And you, I found a love that sets me free. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. When you hold me, I know that I have everything. It's blue skies and big dreams, a billion places to explore. And I will be with you forever. Forever I am yours. Forever I am yours. They say the time is now to go where we want to. Follow the road until it leads us somewhere new. Nothing can stop us now, and we're together. Oh, the whole world opens up when I'm with you. In you I find a love that sets me free. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. When you hold me, I know that I have everything. It's blue skies, big dreams, a billion places to explore. And I will be with you forever. Forever I am yours. Forever I am yours. You, I found the love that sets me free. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. When you hold me, I know that I have everything. It's blue skies and big dreams, a billion places to explore. And I will be with you forever. Forever I am yours. Forever I am yours. Forever I am yours. Forever I am
I'm spending money like I just got paid. $100 bills, tell them keep the change. Come on. Yeah, pop a bottle, about to make it rain. Let me give you something now to celebrate. Come on. And if you're wondering why I move the way I do, I just feel so good, good, good. Oh, 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 I just feel so good. I see the world through my thrift store shades, rose-colored lenses and a fake gold frame. Come on. Playing old rock songs on an air guitar, posing for your picture like a superstar. Yeah, come on. And if you're wondering why I move the way I do, I just feel so good, good, good. Oh, I just feel so good, good, good. Oh, I just feel so good, good, good. Oh, I just feel so good. just dance along. Keep the feeling going on and on. If you feel it, just dance along, dance along, dance along. Yeah. If you feel it, just dance along. Got to keep the feeling going on and on. Yeah. If you feel it, just dance along, dance along. Oh, it just feels so good. I just feel so good, good, good. Oh, 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 I just feel so good. Oh, I just feel so good. Eyes on me, dripping sweat won't stop me till I'm dead. Mouth money, place your bets, blood rushing to my head. I won't run, I won't hide, I'm right here. You're gonna know my name. Show up or show out, 'cause sure enough, you're gonna know my name. Tongue slapping out your mouth won't save you. The truth comes out, I'll make it. Swallow it down, you can't fake it. It's too late now. I won't run, I won't hide, I'm right here. You're gonna know my name. Show up or show out, 'cause sure enough, you're gonna know my name. I won't run, I won't hide, I'm right here. You're gonna know my name. Show up or show out, 'cause sure enough, you're gonna know my name. I won't run, I won't hide, I'm right here. You're gonna know my name. Show up or show out, 'cause sure enough, you're gonna know my name. You're gonna know my name. You're gonna know my name.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to you all, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Michael Barrett, and I'm Head of Events and Corporate Social Responsibility at TR Business, an apt title for this session. Thanks for joining, and thank you to our session sponsor, Duty Free Innovation, who are our partners in the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum, and we'll be hearing more from them during the course of this session. I must apologise. We wanted to play you our great TRSF sustainability promo video just now, and I think you got the message because you've seen it about 2 or 3 times. A little technical bug there. So, but it will be played for those who missed it. It will be played again at the end of this session. So, how will sustainable business practices evolve in the post-pandemic world? In the video you've just seen, you'll have seen some pretty astonishing figures just now. Society produces 300 million tons of plastic each year and 1 million plastic bags every minute. And travel retail, as you just saw, is responsible for an estimated 10 billion plastic bags every year and 3 billion plastic bottles. And interestingly, you may have read that as of today, the UK has banned plastic straws, plastic stirrers, and cotton buds. So the session is obviously very timely. It's in fact delayed as we were due to hold the inaugural TRSF meeting in Orlando back in March. So in this session, we're going to share some of the initiatives, both pre and post-COVID, among industry stakeholders on their environmental investments, whether for the reduction of elimination of single-use plastics or other initiatives. The speakers are going to share consumer insights on sustainable and purpose-driven shopping behavior in the post-COVID context, as well as discuss consumer-facing sustainable practices and internal company initiatives on reducing their overall carbon footprint. So with me today is my colleague Luke Barris-Hill, and we've switched roles for this session. So I'm now going to hand over to Luke for some housekeeping notes. Over to you, Luke.
Thank you very much, Michael. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural Travel Retail Sustainability Forum. It's been a long time in the making. As Michael mentioned, it was due to be held at the Duty Free and Travel Retail Summit in the Americas, but we are here virtually now, and I'm delighted, and we're all delighted to have you. I'm Luke Barris-Hill, Deputy Editor here at TR Business, and I'd once again like to reiterate my thanks to Duty Free Innovation for partnering with us on the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum, and indeed all our TRMarketplace partners for supporting the programme this week. Without your support, it wouldn't be possible. So adopting more environmentally friendly approaches to corporate development, be it through manufacturing, production, transportation, waste management, human resources, and other areas in the supply chain is no longer a choice. It's a duty, and it's something that consumers expect. The greenwashing rhetoric is fading, and we're going to pick up on some of these key points this session, as Michael mentioned. So just a bit of background. Last year, in a bid to champion more affirmative industry action, we launched the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum and the Plastic Pledge. There is a link in the session description of this webinar via TRMarketplace, and we'd urge you all to sign that. TRSF, of course, began as a forum, mainly on social media, to exchange knowledge and information, but it's grown into something much bigger than that, a coalition dedicated to enacting real industry change, and this remains a core focus of the forum. Now, this session is designed to be highly interactive. Please make full use of the Q&A function in your TRMarketplace dashboards. We want to put your questions to our eminent lineup of panelists and experts, and I'll be doing my best to field as many of those questions as possible. The session is being broadcast on TR Business website, and a recording of this, of course, will be made available online after the session, together with the presentations you are about to hear. I think that's all. If I've missed anything, Michael, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll hand back for the introductions.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, I'd just like to add, as Luke said, this session is going to be very interactive, both with the speakers and also with you. We hope do send your questions in, and time permitting, we may even have a couple of polls during this session as well to get some audience involvement and reaction to gauge your views on some of the topics we'll be talking about. So now I'm going to introduce get our speakers to introduce themselves. We have a fantastic lineup, as we've said. Clara Susse from Mindset, Rachel Hawes from Distel, Simon Best from Duty Free Innovation, Maud Girbex from Mars Wrigley, Ambroise Fondeur from Lagardère, Travel Retail, Duncan Craig from Concourse Display Management, and James Prescott from Harding. So I'm now going to hand over to Clara to start the round of introductions, please.
Great. Thank you, Michael, and good afternoon to everyone. So it's great to be back here for this fourth day of the TRMarketplace, and I think the webinar today is going to be probably one of the most exciting and engaging ones, because I think it's really a topic that all of us care about deeply. So what I'm going to be sharing today are some insights about research we've recently conducted about attitudes of shoppers regarding sustainability. So how does the topic of sustainability link with their shopping behavior, and how can we expect that to change in the future? And then I hope this data will serve as a basis for a good discussion moving forward, and I look very much forward to it. Thank you so much for having me, and yes, looking forward to sharing that with you.
Thank you, Clara. Now would you like to introduce yourself, Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel Halls, Head of Marketing for Distell International within the GTR channel. I also head up the Sustainability Forum for Distell International, and that looks at kind of the complete end-to-end part of the sustainability spectrum. So it's not just the front end with the consumer within the GTR channel, but it's the whole from literally production to shelf. I'm really looking forward to this session, something I'm very passionate about, and looking forward to hearing people's views and learning along the way, really, about what other companies are doing and taking that back into our workplace and instigating them.
Thank you, Rachel. Simon, would you like to go next?
Hi everyone, thanks Michael. My name is Simon Best. I'm the VP for Innovations at DFI. I've kind of got two hats on today. I'm representing DFI, and we do a lot of work with retailers and brands helping find sustainable solutions, particularly trying to get plastic out of travel retail. But I've also then representing the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum, which is something very dear to my heart. And I hope, I've been waiting for this day for a long, long time, and I hope that this will be a stepping stone, a real springboard to the next level for Travel Retail Sustainability Forum. So yeah, you'll hear more from me later on about that.
Thank you, Simon. Maud, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Maud Geerbex. I'm the Corporate Affairs Director of Mars Wrigley ITR. Many of you know me for speaking about the labeling issue in confectionery travel retail, making sure that we think about how we provide information to our consumers. But I also champion sustainability for Mars Wrigley ITR. And today I hope to share with you what the plans are of our corporation and what specifically we do in travel retail.
Thank you, Maud. And it was Maud who suggested the environmental charity that we have raised funds for in this year's raffle for the 2020 Travel Retail Awards, which was the Foundation for Environmental Education, and we raised over £2,000 for that. So thank you, Maud, for that suggestion, and thank you all for who supported that. Right, and I'd like
thank you. Yes.
I'd now like to ask Ambroise if you'd like to introduce yourself, please. Just unmute yourself.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Yes, so I am Ambroise Fondeur. I'm Chief Business Officer for Lagardère Travel Retail, in charge of the central commercial teams, as well as sponsor for the CSR strategy at the executive committee level. So CSR is very important for Lagardère Travel Retail. I'm delighted actually to have the opportunity to share our views and exchange as well with you views on how important CSR is for travel retail during this session.
Thanks, Ambroise. And I know you're doing a lot of work with the next person we're going to ask to introduce himself, and that's Duncan from Concourse.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, I'm Duncan Craig. I'm Global Project Director for Concourse, and we essentially design and build stores, manufacture branded furniture, pop-ups, activations, and so on across the world. And yeah, and very much looking forward to spending time with you today and showing you how we're trying to help become more sustainable.
Thanks, Duncan. I look forward to hearing from you a bit later on. So James, would you like to finish off the round of introductions, please?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. James Prescott, Managing Director of Harding, the cruise retailer. And I think a particularly interesting topic this, because cruise obviously is a channel within the travel retail sector, has its own fair share of challenges, particularly around the sustainability and the environmental impact of it, and some really interesting developments that are going on within it. So yeah, I think it'll be a good session.
Thanks, James. Right, we're going to press on now. I'd like to ask Clara if you'd like to kick off with your presentation. So we're just going to have a very brief presentation from Clara about consumer insights on sustainability.
Okay, I almost managed to go through the week without doing this, but I forgot to unmute myself. Sorry about that. So yes, as many of you might know, at Mindset we do market research specifically for travel and travel retail. And since a couple of years, we have started tracking this very interesting topic of sustainability. And I will be showing some highlights of that research with you. So since, of course, we're here to talk about sustainability, but this is part of a retail forum, I thought I would start by explaining how, in the minds of travelers, sustainability impacts their brand perception and their likelihood to purchase. And indeed, we see that this is a topic that is very close to the heart of travelers, because 84% think that a greater focus on sustainability by manufacturers would positively impact their perception of the brand. And indeed, going further, 72% say that it would even increase their likelihood of purchasing a brand. So there's a direct link between better sustainability initiatives from the brands and likelihood to purchase. We also see, and you will see this trend throughout the presentation, that there are certain demographics and certain nationalities who are especially sensitive to these issues. So first of all, millennials, but also female travelers across all different age groups, and Europeans are particularly likely to prefer buying products which have a greater focus on sustainability. Then we also wanted to understand, once they're inside the store, how they would behave when they're looking for products. And in fact, as many as 43% said they would actively look for more sustainable, environmentally friendly products when shopping at the airport specifically. So on the one hand, I think that's good news. It's 43% of very engaged travelers. On the other hand, and we will look at that later, there seems to be quite some barriers, because in fact 57% of travelers are not really yet willing to make that extra effort. Of course, it doesn't mean that if products are offered to them, they're not going to be interested, but they're not necessarily willing to really make that effort and look. So we will get back to that in an instant. Again, millennials, females, Europeans, but also North Americans are more likely to look for these products. And there are 4 categories that stand out in that regard. So we have skincare shoppers, makeup shoppers, confectionery, and also fashion and accessory shoppers who over-index in that interest to look for sustainable products. So as I said before, 57% are saying they're not really willing to make that extra effort to look for the products. And the reasons are, first of all, that some of them think they would not have enough time at the airport to really look for those products. 22%, and I think this is probably a bigger issue, have no trust in the sustainable level. I think we've all heard a lot about greenwashing, a lot about not very sincere initiatives being taken by brands. So of course, that has tarnished the way these initiatives are perceived. It is, of course, very important to relink with consumers' trust. Then 19% are worried they would not know how to find those products, or they would not really know how to distinguish them from the rest of the assortment. Only 18% say they have no real interest. So those, as you can see, are really the only ones who really would be harder to target with this. And lastly, 9% think that anyway at the airports the choice of sustainable products is not broad enough. So it's not a place where they would look for that types of products. So again, I think this is quite encouraging and quite good news, because apart from that 18%, all the other travelers would somehow be interested, but it's just about overcoming these barriers that they have mentioned. What is even more encouraging is that actually 64% would be prepared to pay a premium for a product that is environmentally friendly. Again, females at an impressive 70%, but also Europeans and North Americans are mentioning this. And the majority of travelers are willing to pay between 20 and 30% more for a product that is more environmentally friendly. And then moving on to a completely different topic, and I'm sure our friends at DFI will have a lot to comment on this. We wanted to understand what kind of bags they would prefer to buy at the airport. And here, a staggering 86% told us they would prefer to pay for reusable non-plastic bags. So 86% prefer this. So we see that the plastic bag to be thrown away is clearly a thing of the past, which in fact we see 26% would be okay using airport shop bags without paying extra. Then in third place, we have travelers who would be willing to pay for the reusable plastic bag. And then lastly, 16% say they would prefer to bring their own bags, which of course raises some issues around convenience and so on, if we think of the airport context. Another topic we also wanted to touch base on is specifically the water bottles. So here the question that we ask travelers is how they would prefer to consume water when they're at the airport. So the first option which travelers prefer is to refill a bottle for free with tap water at a water fountain. And very closely to that, just 3 percentage points below, we have travelers who would like to purchase mineralized filtered water from a dispenser, also still in a refillable bottle. And as you can see, the single-use plastic bottle for water is, again, not something that appeals to many travelers, only 7%, although in some markets such as South America, but also Middle East and Africa, this is slightly more accepted. So we really see a clear divide between maybe more mature markets, but also, as we saw, the gender split and the age split when it comes to these sensibilities. Then we wanted to dig a bit deeper into what is sustainable consumption according to travelers and what really matters to them. And what you can see here is the ranking in decreasing order of the topics which they consider to be the most important to them. So if we start from the top, we see that buying products that are sourced respecting the environment is the most important. So 74% consider that to be somewhat or extremely important. Then just below that, at 71%, we have buying products that are ethically sourced when it comes to the social welfare of workers and so on. So not talking about the environment, but rather the people who are working for those products. Then recyclable products at 67%, products with as little plastic packaging as possible at 63%, and recycled products at 58%. So very clearly the welfare of the environment, but also of those people working to create the products are what matter the most to travelers. Then I think we slightly touched base on this when we were preparing for this session, that there seems to be actually quite a lot of confusion amongst travelers, but the general population as well, between the topics of what is recyclable, what is biodegradable, what is compostable, and so on. So that's also a topic that we wanted to understand a bit better with our travelers. And indeed, most people say they have some kind of understanding of what are the differences between those different types of packaging. There's almost 1 out of 4 who say they don't understand it at all. They find it completely confusing. Whereas 1 out of 5 say they have a complete understanding. But most of them are a bit in a gray area where they're not really sure what this stands for. So that's it for now. Just a few pointers, just a few insights to use as the basis for discussion. But I look forward to your questions if you have them and to hearing the discussion by the panel. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Clara. There's some really interesting insights that's come out of that, and you know, I think some of it's really encouraging, but some of it's a bit disappointing. You know, the 64% who are interested in prepared to pay more for a product if it's environmentally friendly. I'm sure that's going to sort of put dollar signs in the eyes of some of our panelists and viewers. But and 90% prepared to pay more for a reusable non-plastic bag. And that's very interesting as well. And what I found, and we're going to have this chat with James and Ambroise in particular about water. You know, it's interesting to see that 7 out of 10 said they would be prepared to purchase mineralized water in a refillable bottle, whereas only 7%, you said, say they prefer to purchase water in a plastic bottle. So there's a huge shift towards more sustainable practices there, which is really good. But I found it was a bit disappointing that you know, the just under 60% say they're not looking for sustainable products in the airport. So there's obviously a big drive on consumer communication that's necessary there. without any further ado, I'm going to ask Simon if you'd just like to say some introductory remarks about the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum initiative.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Let me just bring up some slides. I hope you all don't mind. First time I've done this, so I'm hoping it will. Excellent. Here we go. I hope you can all see that. I'll go into slideshow. Come on. There we go. Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thank you. I'll only be a few minutes. This is a party political broadcast on behalf of the Sustainability Forum, but it is an important development, I think, for the industry. For the last probably 10 years that we've been doing Cannes and Singapore and all the industry events, which I've loved and Orlando obviously as well. The key topics have been digital, online, until about 3 years ago, we started to see sustainability come through as a real force. And now we can see it's at the top of the list for most people's industry as well as businesses. And, there is a CSR manager in nearly every business now. And a bit like digital, it's not going away. It's not a flash in the pan. Digital now is not a topic of conversation. It's not new. It's something that everyone has embraced, and sustainability is getting that way. Now, what we can see quite clearly from Clara's presentation, which was excellent. Well done, Clara. Thank you very much. And some great numbers on the plastic bag, so thank you. Anyway, we didn't pay her for that, I promise. But yeah, we're seeing some real clear trends coming through that people want it. They want sustainability in the products. They will choose sustainable over non-sustainable, but not at all costs. There are certain points we can't just charge anything and expect them to buy. But there also is some negatives coming through, as Michael alluded to. So only 20% of people are absolutely clear what the difference between recyclable, biodegradable. And I don't believe 20%. If they do, because I'm into this and I'm still not quite sure. And I think it is very confusing for consumers to what it means and what the product is. And everyone's doing something slightly different and wording it in slightly different ways. And they come from all around the world. And we need some conformity on this and a very clear message that helps the buyer to make the right decision. And I think that's where we are. From DFI, we firmly believe that that's possible. It's actually not that difficult to do. Now, again, it depends on your category and where you are, but it is possible. And it's also possible to do in a way that actually can benefit rather than cost you as a business. So that's where we come from. Now, I just want to talk very quickly about the objectives of the forum, and then just a bit of a call to arms. What do we need from you? So just a couple of bullet points, but when we pulled this together, we haven't really changed where we are. I think the momentum behind the forum, rather than faltering over COVID, actually has probably gathered a little bit more pace, because as we can see from the numbers that this is something that is gathering pace. So first of all, we want really to bang the drum for sustainability, help the industry to understand the challenges, and again, you've got a lot of good experts working in your businesses, but we need to bring it together, understand it from everyone's point of view, and that's really where the forum can come. And in partnership with TR Business, who I have to say have been fantastic and really have supported everything in the forum's trying to achieve. There is a good outlet for making these messages come across, which is great. So we want to go wider than the industry as well, but we really need to help everyone to understand the challenges and appreciate what people are up against. We want to consolidate and coordinate the sharing of information. I think that's really the core of the forum. Is let's bring everyone's work together. Everyone is working really hard, and there's some fantastic initiatives, and you'll see with some of the speakers that we've got coming up, just some of the things that people are doing, and what we've seen just in putting this this presentation together, that even amongst the speakers, they're discovering new things just by talking. You know, you'll see some of the things that Duncan's doing. You know, a lot of people weren't aware of that. That's fantastic. Recyclable furniture, that's amazing. Or actually, you get validation as well. So some of the retailers and well, we're doing that. Yes, we're doing that as well, and building on that. And those sorts of conversations are really important in building momentum behind sustainability and moving things forward. With that in mind, you say we want to promote initiatives, you know, and TR Business, as I say, are very good at publishing people's achievements, you know, and it makes great reading, and again, it's a good way of sharing this information. So please, you know, as part of the forum, let's hear from what you're doing, and you know, good and bad, you know, what challenges you're having as well, because it makes good reading, and there's genuine interest within the TR Business environment. That sort of brings us together to where we want to take this, and I think this is really, you know, the vision we've got is some industry-wide action. We want to coordinate that and help facilitate companies coming together, or you know, the whole industry putting in place some best practices and some key actions. And you know, we want to, you know, I say one of the big problems we're seeing from the numbers is there is there's a misunderstanding about what sustainability is, what's good, what's bad, and the problem with sustainability is there's no one, you know, solution. You know, if you turn to paper, then there's issues with eutrophication and bleaching and deforestation. If you do plastic, it's plastic. So, you know, again, what are the right ways of doing it? Is recycling better than biodegradability? Now, I think again, it's just trying to get that message across, get the shopper to understand what it is that your product stands for and represents, and try and create some conformity across the industry, so it's clear. And then also create an industry standard. So again, this is best practice. Maybe we're looking at creating a stamp and approved by the Sustainability Forum. But it's also about trying to envision what this environment looks like. Now, within travel retail, we're probably behind the curve a little bit in compared to some of the domestic retailers in what we're doing with sustainability, and it shouldn't be that way. And I think particularly in airports, we have you know, and on cruise lines, there's a controlled environment that we you know, as retailers, as brands, as landlords, can really dictate what is happening in there. And so we can start to shine the light, become exemplars for how a sustainable retail environment really can work. And I think that's where we would like to end up as a forum, really pushing that and helping you guys to achieve that. So some bold objectives, and it won't happen overnight. And it certainly won't happen if we just sit here and talk about it. What we need to do is get you guys involved, really, and that's what we would love to see is ideas, contributions, seminars. You know, just let's. This is your forum, as you know, as much as it is the industry's. What can you bring? How can we help you to move your agenda forward as well? So we're here, but we need you. So share goals, plans. You know, the guys at TRB are the conduit for this. So send them into Michael, send them into, you know, Charlotte and the team. Bring it to the public attention. We also really, for these sets of best practice and standards, again, we need your expertise as well. So what are the parameters what does good look like? You know, what is that best practice? And you all have, you know, certain sets of expertise and experience that would really help us to deliver a working standard that would actually be achievable. So it'd be great to get your input on that. Also, in terms of economics, absolutely crucial to sustainability. It's great but there is no money tree, and you know, there's no point in having unicorn ideas. We want stuff that works or doesn't work. You know, where are these learnings? You know, can we get these economic indicators so we can help with NGOs and lobbyists to start to move things outside of our industry as well. And then finally, we have a plastic pledge, which is something that, you know, everyone should be signing up to, from individuals as companies. Again, it can really help to give us momentum around the sustainability forum movement. And there is a link again on the TRMarketplace for the pledge, and also on TR Business. So please, if you do anything after this, go on, sign up your pledge, and we will bring that together, and it'll help us to get some traction for the forum. So I think that's sort of hopefully a quick summary of what we want to do. I hope it sounds exciting to you guys, and is the sort of vehicle that can really start to help galvanize your efforts into something a little bit bigger, because I think together we are stronger, and it would really make a big difference to get to the next level. So hopefully we'll see you in person next time for the next forum. That would be great. And yeah, and I said, looking forward to the rest of the session. So thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, and as Simon mentioned, the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum is this new initiative, well, a year old now, and it's just one aspect of our sustainable strategy at TR Business. You know, he mentioned the plastic pledge just now, which you can click on in the session description. We are, as we announced recently, going green totally from next year, January. All the TR Business publications will be digital and free of charge, of course, as well, with the exception of the trade event issues, which we'll have physical versions of. And of course, we also launched the Best Green Initiative at an Airport award for the 2020 Travel Retail Awards, and which was won by Budapest Airport for their free eco-friendly shopping bags. So well done to Budapest Airport. So lots happening, and as Simon said, it's not just us. We really want to get you all involved. Some of the speakers, I think probably all of them, have already signed the plastic pledge. We want your ideas. We'll be having regular sustainability forums as well. So we really like to get your input going forward as well. So thanks, Simon. What I'd like now to do is open up the Q&A and obviously get your questions coming in. Only those who are watching through the Travel Retail Marketplace platform can ask questions. There are a lot of people watching also online directly on the website. Unfortunately, you won't be able to ask questions, but do use the Q&A panel. I'd like to now throw it open to the retailers on our panel. So James and Ambroise, what I'd like to start off with doing is getting your reaction to the insights you heard from Mindset, but also getting a feel from your own consumer insights on the behavior with regards to sustainable purchases, and your own consumer-facing initiatives also with regard to reducing single-use plastics. So to start with, I'd like to go to you, Ambroise, if I may.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Michael. Yes, just a few comments on the survey that was presented by Clara. First, I think there's clearly the question of the understanding and on the trust in what a sustainable product is, or what an ethically sourced product is. Clearly, I think that was underlying in some of the answers from the consumers. And as also Simon, you just mentioned, actually it's quite a complex topic to understand what really sustainable is and what is not sustainable. And I think we retailers have a key role to play there, especially in travel retail, where not this year, unfortunately, but in a normal year, we see a lot of people going through airports or through cruise. And I think so it's more food for thought, but and today, concretely at Lagardère, we do not have concrete action plans around that, but clearly we would like to leverage our store network in order to better educate consumers or travelers on these sustainable issues. So nothing concrete yet, but more vision in a role that we think that we can play there. The second comment I would like to make on the survey was I think the answer from travelers that they were ready to pay more for sustainable products. It's not exactly what we see in the field. So it's great to see that they are at least saying that they would be willing to pay more. At the same time, I think the reconciling sustainability with purchasing power and economics is also a key challenge that we are facing and that we will be facing going forward, to make sure that we are bringing economically viable, sustainable solutions. So just so these two quick feedbacks. Going back to your question, Michael. So what we have done at Lagardère is start by looking at our own operation. So as a retailer, and trying to eliminate some plastic, typically on some of our own operations, specifically on consumables. So we are actually taking out all plastic from our food service consumables. So here I'm talking about paper cups or salad bowls or cups or cutlery, and we're switching to eco-friendly or recyclable solutions for all these product items. Already, all our European operations have switched to eco-friendly sourcing for these products, and we are rolling out this pledge to our global operations by the end of the year. So starting 2021, all our food service operations will be using non-plastic or eco-friendly solutions for food service consumables.
Is it clear, Ambroise? Sorry, is it clear when you've got that recyclable coffee cup, for example, is it clear to the consumer what they can do and should do with that once they've used it?
No, I don't think it's clear. And actually, even ourselves, we think we are switching, and then we are discovering that what we are switched to is not completely, is not fully environmental friendly, and so then we need to move to the next level. But I think it's also a step-by-step approach, and I think what is very important, and going back also to what Simon was saying, is to start to move, test things, and then build on that. And so at least what we've done, we were 100% plastic for most of these items. We switched to as much as possible to eco-friendly solutions. And now we are trying to better understand what this is, and then to try to identify the next even more cleaner solution going forward. And the last, to finish, at the same time, we are quite cautious in terms of communication to consumers, because again, this is a complex topic. We don't want to do greenwashing. So our first priority is actually to change slowly our own operation before we actually go loud, if we want one day to go loud from a B2C point of view.
And do you have any feedback from the consumers on the initiatives? The switch to eliminating plastic. Have you gauged their reaction to that?
We have not been so. Again, this is very recent, and you see we are in this very particular year that you are all aware of. So it's very difficult to at this stage to get this feedback. So we don't have a very precise feedback yet. At the same time, we are fully convinced and fully engaged in this transition, and I think we need to move towards more eco-friendly solutions, quote unquote, regardless of the reaction from consumers. It's not only consumer-led solutions; it's also, I think, professionally led solutions.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ambroise. I'm going to now ask James if you'd like to comment on those questions as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really fascinating topic, this, and I think the cruise channel is quite different because the cruise lines themselves have been taking a really proactive stance, and I was just refreshing myself this morning about all of the cruise lines and the commitments they've made, and I think pretty much all of them now, from NCL, Carnival, Royal, have all made pledges about the full elimination of single-use plastic, as have a lot of the smaller ones. Straws have been taken off a number of cruise lines. NCL, MSC, I'd seen a lot. So I think, as if you like, the environment itself will be much more environmentally aware. We started about a year ago removing any refund-friendly skin cream because people go to a lot of islands and then get off the ships. Virgin was a fascinating project. There are something like 50 on day one of the brands will be fully environmentally friendly, sustainable, ecologically aware. But we've tried to do it rather than either, is it an opportunity to squeeze a higher price out of people, or rather than being a big brother, we've just tried to do the right thing. So whether it's in the office or on the ships or with the range, we're conscious when we buy products. There were some confectionery lines we saw last year that are just horrific, you know, aimed at children. And if you look at the volume of plastic in it, it was genuinely borderline obscene how much plastic was being put to the packaging. And you just think, you know, we as a retailer should be brave enough to say, like, we're just not going to list it anymore. It doesn't matter what the brand is. If it's an obscene use of plastic and you as a retailer buy it, and you're then asking the consumer to make a decision. Whereas if you put the range together that is decent, that's environmentally conscious, and it doesn't have to be a higher price or an alternative. In the case of the skin creams, you can get some phenomenal brands, you know, fair prices, you know, really skin fair, skin kind, and reef-friendly. So you think you're going that extra mile. And I hope that as part of the whole retail proposition, you know, consumers sort of almost sort of subtly and subliminally, you're getting that message across. So, and a lot of it actually in our business came from our own people, you know, particularly young office, who created themselves this eco squad in the office, and started really with a bit of, I guess, awareness and shaming almost, that said, well, our coffee machines a year ago used to spit out the single-use plastic cups, and everyone had a bin under the desk with plastic bags in, and we used to buy cardboard to send products to ships. And at the same time, we were filling up skips with all the packaging that were coming in from the brands. So we've a couple of slides I'll touch on a little later, just to show you a few of the initiatives we've done. But I think if you listen to your own people, you know, all of us, it's not as if these kind of consumers and customers are this sort of mystical grouping. As I think Maud said at the beginning, and as did Rachel, you know, this is something that we are all living and breathing in our day-to-day lives. You know, we all know the difference between good and bad and right and wrong. And thank you. So yeah, these are just some simple things. If everybody can see that slide there, some simple things in the office that we've encouraged, on everything from company cars, you know, really actively encourage the use of, or people to get electric by putting in electric charging points. We have in the office, all of the cleaning parts of it are recyclable. The bins, we don't have any more single plastic bins under the desks and plastic bags. We have recycling stations everywhere. The little biffer truck at the bottom, this is one of my, I'm not sure that I just got a text, Michael. I'm not sure anyone can see that slide. Maybe in presenter mode. The little biffer truck at the bottom, that is, when you can see it, picture a nice red truck with a lift on the back. But we used to have, from the office, most days there would be, you know, full skips which would be taken away, and we're now down to one a week. So it saves you a lot of money because we're reusing, I think, Michael, it's on the next page, please, or the previous, the warehouse one. I think it's just before. But
flipping around. No.
Back to number 2, I think. 2 more slides. 1 more. There we go. Down 1. It's like a dance, this. Thank you very much. This a favourite slide, and I shall have the mickey taken for talking about these plastic wraps and the cardboard boxes and the pallets, but we get a phenomenal amount of packaging in. If you can reuse that packaging, it's environmentally friendly and it costs you less money, and you're then filling up less skips, which again is saving you money. And we only use the heat treated wooden pallets that are, you know, reused and recycled. We don't use any more of the single use plastic. This wrap, which I will get huge mickey taken for, but is a phenomenal one. We haven't managed to find a completely oil-free wrap for pallets that is A, cost effective, and B, that can be compacted. So I think when we've looked at all the different elements, we've tried, rather than, not quite greenwashing, but rather than saying, well, this one doesn't have any oil in it and therefore it must be better to use. Well, at the moment, the only solutions we've found, it doesn't condense down very much. So you get onto a ship and you suddenly have a skip filled with, you know, 4 pallets worth of plastic. Well, this pallet shrinks down to the size of a marble, a large marble, and therefore you have a lot less waste, a lot less trucks that come to take it away. So we really have worked through all the different areas. And if you wouldn't mind paging down, I think 2 slides to go on to number 3. Just actually, that's a very good one as well. The cardboard and paper, plastic bags have long since disappeared from ships, but replaced by the point that Clara was making, the reusable and the recyclable, or delivering directly to cabins rather than guests carrying it 50 paces. And the next 3 pages are just some very quick pictures of some of the brands. Eco doesn't have to mean, and sustainable doesn't have to mean sort of weird and wonderful, expensive and sort of not very trendy products. You can get some absolutely phenomenal products from some incredible brands that, this page, for example, just absolutely superb. And each one of those products on there has an incredible story to it, from bamboo toothbrush to the reef friendly. And so I think it's more setting the way and doing it ourselves rather than trying to, I don't feel our job is to drum it into customers and say, sort of do the right thing. Our job is we'll just make it easier for people. If you put the range together and you give them the proposition, and if you don't have the super unfriendly stuff, we're just doing the right thing. And generally it's our people holding us to, if you like, to account on each of these things. And we just make it easy for people with fair value and good value. And if you just do the right thing, and I don't know, I guess as an industry with flying and cruising, it's not the most environmentally friendly industry perhaps, and it comes in, and we come in as an industry for a fair bit of flack for the environmental footprint. But if we all do our bit, and that's why I think the initiative, Simon, that you were talking about, really is fantastic, because anything on there where we can share best practice and share things across, we are absolutely keen. And if there's anything I've said that somebody knows of, there is a packaging that doesn't use oil, that does all ears, to hear about it. And if anyone wants any information on the people we've used for those, again, we're entirely happy to share.
I think it's fascinating, and I think there's obviously utilizations for that technology, for want of a better word, for even the brands and their packaging and wraps and some of the products. Not to mention other retailers, not yet using this kind of condensable wraps. I'd like to bring in the brands now into the discussion and find out a bit more about what both Mars and Distell have been doing pre-COVID and since the pandemic as well on your sustainable strategy. I'll start with you, Rachel. Do you want to enlighten us on what Distell's been doing?
Yeah, I think first of all, I just want to touch on the research. I think I've been in travel retail 12 months. That's it. My whole marketing life has been domestic orientated, whether it be Europe, South America, America. And I think we talk about needing the consumer to justify our actions and move into a sustainable space. And I actually think it's a necessity, not a choice. And I think the onus is actually on us as corporations to do the right thing. And it comes back to what James was saying, that it is our duty. We are facing one of the biggest challenges of our lives, both for this generation and the kind of future generation. So I think the research, you could look at it and you say it's disappointing, but actually I think the onus is on us collectively, from suppliers through to retailers, to actually do the right thing. It comes back to what James said. So for me, the research doesn't worry me, because I think this is a journey we're on and we should stay on. And if you look at domestic research, and a lot of them are younger generation, they're going to be our future travelers. And they are going to, the numbers within GTR are quite skewed because it is an older generation generally, but those new consumers are going to become our everyday consumers. And they are going to reject aspects of our industry if we don't move into that space. So that for me is really important. I think I'll just, Distell, obviously we're a drinks business. Our challenge is much more around the carbon footprint. And as been touched on, we do travel is a luxury, and it does have a significant carbon footprint. So I'll just kind of touch on some of our initiatives. If I can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Is that visible? Yeah. Okay. Let's make sure I'm in there. Okay. There we go. Okay. I think, at Distell, we look at the end-to-end. So we look right from, even though I sit within the GTR channel, my responsibility within the forum is actually to look at end-to-end. So it's literally from production right the way through to the end consumer. And as James has touched on, you kind of solve one problem and you create another. So we look at the entire process, because you can't just look at aspects in isolation, or a channel or a market in isolation. So we look at the whole picture. We, as a business, our framework is around the 17 sustainability goals that the UN have created, because that becomes a framework that everybody recognizes, and it becomes kind of a common language. And a lot of domestic businesses are using that. And our sort of focus within Distell is interesting. We're split. So we are an African business predominantly. 70% of our consumers sit in Africa and South Africa. And actually, we've had to split our forums. We've had to split it into Africa and international, because the challenges in Africa are very different to that in a developing market. Developing versus developed are very different. And travel retail sits within the developed sector. So I sit within Distell International, and we are focused on kind of three main goals. One is health and wellness. And that's not just our employees, but it's about health and wellness of consumers, because we are an alcoholic beverage company. We focus on responsible consumption and production, and sort of climate change action, and then life below the water. So we use those goals to kind of create a framework. And our focus, it's fair to say, is very much in our carbon footprint at the moment. And some of the initiatives that we're doing are very much focused on going, we want to be carbon negative. We do not want to have a carbon footprint, full stop. And at that point, we will start talking to consumers, because at the moment we don't feel we have the right to, because we have a carbon footprint. So some of the initiatives are from things like hydropower at Deanston. We've been doing that since the 1950s, but we are every so many years we upgrade those turbines, because we export to the grid. So we're not only carbon neutral as a distillery from electricity perspective, but we also export, and we power the local Deanston village, and the plan is to do a lot more villages within the area. We switch fossil fuel from oil to gas. It's still fossil fuel, so it's not ideal, but in essence we reduce our carbon footprint by another 25%. And these are just all building blocks to get us to a carbon negative position. And then places like Boonhaven, we're installing a biomass heater that goes in, work starts in November, and that will reduce our carbon footprint by 95% when it's finished. And actually more interesting within our industry, which I find really heartwarming, is the industry, the sort of whiskey industry, are very acutely aware of climate change. Most distilleries sit on Islay, for example, right on the sea. Any increase in sea levels and you lose 10 distilleries overnight. And that's not just our distillery, it's Diageo's, it's Pernod Ricard's, etc. So there's a project that's happening at Islay, which is fascinating, where the Crown Estate have given planning permission to create tidal turbines down the side of the Sound of Islay, which adjoins, it's a waterway that's between Jura and Islay. And in effect, that will make the island almost carbon neutral. So that's a great industry. It's not just about us, Distell, or Boonhaven, our brand, or our distillery. It's about the collective. So that's a really exciting project that we're involved in, and I can't wait for that to kind of come to fruition. If we look at some of the other points, and I just wanted to come back to, we're a little bit obsessed with, reduce, reuse, recycle. Recycle is your last. It's not ideal because there's a carbon footprint in recycling. So we're quite obsessed with reducing kind of or reusing. So our kind of focus is also like, how do we reuse stuff? So the draft that we create from our distilleries, we sell that off to local farmers on Islay and the Isle of Mull. So that means that feed, it's not leaving the island. So everything that moves on and off an island has a significant carbon footprint. So by keeping and having a sort of community and reusing stuff that is no longer of any use to us, we again reduce our carbon footprint, and we create a community, which is really important. Coming back to what James said, I think, and it is so true about your employees, if you engage your employees and get them involved, they come up with, small to big initiatives. They really, and it does engage employees, because it's not necessarily about shareholders' value, it's about doing the right thing. And lovely little things at Deanston, we now take the old casks and they become flower pots, and we actually give them out to the local community, so people can come and collect an old barrel and they can put it in their garden. We don't care, but they're reusing items that otherwise would, once they're spent and they can't be used for whiskey production, they'd probably go into landfill. And then other things like reusing bottles for corporate events as candlestick holders, all employee initiatives, not come from the Sustainability Forum, but actually engaging employees. And we've seen massive changes in our culture score by involving employees, which is heartwarming because they want to be involved. Excuse me, I got a cough. And then in terms of packaging and plastic packaging, we are, water.
Refillable bottle.
Yes, absolutely. I think we don't have a massive plastic carbon footprint in our products, a plastic footprint, in our products. We have a big carbon footprint. Ours is about secondary packaging, so it's transportation of our products, it's sending out products, it's gifting, it's GWPs. We are just trying to reduce at every touch point our plastic in that supply chain. And James, with you, we haven't found a solution to getting rid of plastic wrap. If someone out there knows the answer, please share it with us. We reduced our plastic by 30% by changing the way we wrap a pallet to using different types of film and using pre-stretch, but we haven't got rid of it. So we're kind of focusing on what I said, the transportation, but the bit that's heartwarming is the employee bit. Our employees are now fully engaged. We have regular workshops with them on helping them reduce their personal waste, and then they come back with more ideas, and it's a cycle. And it really does actually help the overall culture of the company, which is the bit I kind of wanted to share. That it can't sit at boardroom level. Sustainability has to permeate every part of your business, and I think that if I was to get out one message that I've learned in the last 12 months is that you have to engage at every touch point. I think I've spoken enough. I think a question.
Thank you. We'll come back to some more questions with you in a short while. But what you just said, that sustainability has to permeate every part of the business, I think is a great way to finish on what you're just saying. Sorry, somebody's trying to speak at the same time. Does someone have something to say then? Okay.
I've been me coughing.
No worries. Lots to take that. It's interesting you said you don't communicate too much just yet because you're not fully sustainable and you're carbon neutral, which is but these create, obviously it's a great inspiration for your staff. It's great inspiration for the trade customers as well. I saw Ambroise leaning in as you were speaking, and James nodding his head at everything you were saying as well. So obviously this must be great talking points for engagement with the trade partner.
It is. I think the other point I probably wanted to get across, and I think I mentioned this, Michael, was what we're learning is connecting the front end of your business and the back end of your business is absolutely imperative, because I'm a marketeer. I can come up with the best sustainability ideas that are consumer facing, but actually 9 times out of 10, they create more complexity and more issues within your business. And actually being very close to your production and your supply chain, your operations is really important. And I think my big learning curve is learning things about production that I had no idea about 12 months ago, because then as a marketeer, you're coming up with valid solutions as opposed to just a nice idea that might look nice on a pack. You're actually doing something that's meaningful. And actually then there's a benefit to the overall business, as opposed to me as a marketeer coming up with some wonderful solution that my operations team look at me in horror and think you're creating a problem, you're not solving a problem. So that would be my other thing, is you need to, as a marketeer, really understand every touch point of your business in terms of the whole, supply chain, because it's in L'Occitane do that really well. So if I was to pick a business that I look up to, L'Occitane do that really, really well, and how they structure their business. It's a great example of where we would like to get to as a business.
Yeah, it's great for obviously brands within the category as well to inspire each other as well. I'd like to move now, if I can, to Maud to get some feedback from the confectionery category about what you're doing in this domain. And James was talking about some confectionery brands. I can't remember what you used. Was it scandalous or something to that effect? Shameful packaging. I guess every confectionery brand was at that point some time ago, but you're all moving forward now. Maud, do you want to tell us a bit what you're doing at Mars Wrigley? Reaction maybe as well to Clara's insights.
Yes, definitely. And I'll start with that. Thank you, Michael. I think a key takeaway from Clara's insights for me was that sustainability is close to the heart of our shoppers, but they also seem to see some barriers to sustainable shopping. And I'm very much with Rachel. Really, I think when I say that sustainable and ethical sourcing is an important concern to consumers, it is an important concern to us. It is just an important issue, period. So it should be an important concern for everyone. One other thing that I picked up on is that travelers seem to have a lot of confusion around whether packaging is recyclable, biodegradable, bio-based, compostable, and I think that is quite right, because this is very confusing, and these are all different things. They are not necessarily interchangeable. And that is something that I would just like to pick up on for a little bit, because I think that this is a very important issue for the travel retail industry. So we should take note of this. And I'll share my screen to illustrate that. Let me just quickly do that. So you should be able to see a slide now that basically highlights challenges with packaging in the world. Obviously, packaging has a lot of benefits, and especially in food and in confectionery, you really need packaging to be able to keep products fresh, to protect it, etc. But there are challenges as well. And they're very different across the world. So, for instance, in developed markets, there is waste collection. Even though not every single piece of packaging is recycled, unfortunately, the infrastructure is there. And in some countries, it's better than in others, and it's arranged very differently, but it's there. In developing markets, there is very little to no collection. There's very low recycling. And then, of course, there's the issue that plastics are also made of fossil fuels, which are finite resources. So we need to figure out the answers to that. And the answers are not very simple. So if you start looking at this difference across the world, then obviously in developed markets, you would want packaging to be recycled. And we would want to tell consumers how to do that. But then a packaging that is recyclable, if that ends up in a developing market, it is not going to be recycled. So it might have been better off if it were bio-based, biodegradable. And that's a very interesting challenge, I think, that we should look to. So what we're doing as a business in terms of packaging is we have basically a 3-step approach to that. We look at packaging, we remove it if we can. So we've reduced a lot of weight in our packaging already. A lot of times, plastic will be made up of different layers. We remove them if we can. There are reuse programs internally as well. And then we look at redesigning for circularity. So there are some materials which are easier to recycle than others. PVC, for instance, is very problematic, so we eliminate that. We look at other sources as well, paper packaging, but we want every piece of packaging to not become waste. So we'll do what it takes to do that. And then thirdly, we also need to close the loop. We need to close the loop with our consumers to make sure that if we design a pack to be recycled, that it is actually recycled. So that means, we need to have a recycling system in place. They need to actually be used, and consumers need to understand how to do that. I think that is difficult in a domestic market. It is very challenging in a market like travel retail. And I think that's something that we should think about. Yes, so other than that, obviously, we do have a sustainable intergeneration plan as well. I won't share all of that because it is really very far-ranging, and I think outside of the scope of this conversation. But one thing I would like to mention is that today is World Cocoa Day, and that's a special day for us as Mars, obviously. And today we celebrate cocoa. We also celebrate cocoa farming communities who have been hit hard by COVID as well. And I think that is just something to take note of in a sustainability forum as well. I'll stop sharing now. But of course, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Maud. Yeah, and we'd really like to get to some audience Q&A as well. I know there are some coming in, so I will pass over to Luke in a few minutes. But before we do, I'd really like to get Duncan's perspective, because you've been sitting patiently there, sitting through all this. Obviously, you're working very much with retailers around the industry, and I'd like you to share some of the initiatives that you're doing from a different perspective, not just single-use plastic reduction, but a general view on sustainability generally in the store environment. Yeah, sharing the screen, great.
Yeah, sure, thank you. No, very interesting talk on plastics. I'm going to shift away from plastics, if I may. Concourse, obviously, we build and install and manufacture stores and branded gondolas and pop-ups and things like that. And for the last 10 years, we've been doing it very traditionally in the linear way. So we take natural resources, we make them into these beautiful stores or branded furniture, and then unfortunately 80 to 90% end up in landfill. And one of the issues of it going to landfill are that the materials that we're actually using to make these stores and furniture and stuff are very typical materials, but they're also very bad for the environment. So if we take MDF, for example, that contains formaldehyde, which is a very nasty chemical, and 80% of furniture is made out of it. It's just been the way it has been. Same for things like acrylic and electroplating. You can't recycle these things. They're non-reusable, non-circular, and they're certainly non-compostable. So obviously this is not a nice thing, and brands and operators I feel pretty uncomfortable about it as well. So what are we trying to do? So yeah, we're moving into trying to get things circular. So recover materials, reuse as much as we can, and to Rachel's point, recycle being the last kind of option. One of my favorite people on the planet is Ellen MacArthur, who has created this foundation that really pioneers the use of circular economy. And there's three main principles. One is to design out waste and pollution. Two is to keep products and materials in use. And three is to regenerate natural streams. And so when we get involved with a project, we actually design for end of life now. We don't design for the store that it's going into. We design to work out what's going to happen afterwards. And so we're working with various clients like Lagardère to have a real audit on their supply chain to help design out waste and pollution. And that also then goes on to looking and sourcing sustainable materials and specifying them in design stage. So this keeps products and materials in use. One example of the material that we're very excited about using and are using is this e-core board. So this is a replacement for MDF, and we can make it out of anything cellulose. So it can be fiber waste from cotton, from fashion, it can be food waste. So we're working with a certain cognac brand to take their grape skins and make it into these boards, or we use paper waste. And yeah, you just mix it with water, heat and pressure, and it produces these boards, which are compostable, reusable, and fully circular. And you just need to dress them nicely, and they look very premium. Same with paints. So we're using biomass paints now. We're not using paints with any chemicals in them. They create really beautiful finished products, so you wouldn't know the difference. And then finally, we're looking at modular furniture and designing furniture that can be reused, redressed, and ultimately is cost effective, because at the end of the day, that's also very important. And it might be 15% more to create this initial unit, but then as we reuse it and redress it for different campaigns, the cost halves. It goes down to 30% the more you use it. So that's become very, very useful for brands and operators. And then we have things like dashboards where we look at the CO2 emissions, we look at the materials that we use for pop-ups and so on. And then this creates a circular environment. So we obviously always start with design. We design to be modular, design for end of life. We use the right sustainable materials. It gets put into the space. And then at the end of that, it goes back into our warehouse where we have, where it's recorded using our asset management tool called TRM. And then when we redesign a new campaign, we can find which pieces of furniture will go well for that particular campaign. We redress it, and then it's reused. So it's a fully circular model that we're aiming for. And then there's two case studies that I'm going to quickly touch on. One is Banyan Tree. This was a exhibition for TFW Singapore last year. Banyan Tree came to us. They're really championship nature and the environment. It's really in their DNA, and so they wanted us to look at that. So all of the furniture is modular. We're using that e-core board, and yeah, it can be clicked in and out and be used in lots of different configurations. So that was good. And then I'm just going to finish up with a quick video. This is a project that we're working on at the moment in Singapore. It's not travel retail, but it's probably going to be one of the most sustainable projects in Singapore, if not Asia. And we're very proud of it. Even the president of Singapore is going to come and look at it soon, but I'll play it now.
Thanks for that, Duncan. Some great,
sure.
Some great examples of really how you're extending the product life cycle, and everything is reusable. You know, the remnants of cognac, grape skins, and so on. It's fantastic. Very briefly before I turn to Luke, Ambroise, I know you've been working with a concourse down in Singapore, but the type of sustainable execution in the merchandising units, or how you've been working with them, is this something that you're looking at doing in other world regions as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Typically, so it's not an easy field, but we are fully in line with what Duncan just presented, and we've done already some tests with them in Singapore, and we are looking at doing other tests or more actually full-scale projects with them outside of Singapore. But typically, yes, we want to better eco-design our stores, and we need suppliers such as Concourse to do so.
Thanks, Ambroise. Luke, I'm going to switch to you now. You've got some questions coming in from the audience.
Hi there, Michael. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, we do indeed have a fair few questions, actually. I'm going to try and address as many of these as possible. Perhaps I'll pick up first with Duncan off the back of some of the points you made. We've got a couple of points, or questions rather, around how attuned brands and retailers are to the importance of the sustainable life cycle and circular economy when it comes to store fixtures and furniture. What happens to them after promotions or activations end, whether they can be reused, recycled, are they biodegradable, compostable? Yeah, how much awareness do the brands and retailers have? Is more education needed, Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally the pop-ups and so on ended up in landfill or incinerated. So it's far from ideal. The brands are making huge strides to address this, though, and brands like L'Oreal are, have made some very big commitments to becoming much more sustainable. And so, yeah, they're definitely moving in the right direction. So there's some exciting things happening, and I'm very pleased to see that's growing at a ever increasing rate.
Great, it's good to hear that education is increasing. There have indeed been quite a bit of reaction around these consumer definition roadblocks that was highlighted in the research earlier. Obviously, only 20% of people have that complete understanding of what might be recycled, compostable, recyclable. We've had quite a few questions on what the industry can do to change communication around this. Should brands be working more closely with not only retailers but other brands to foster greater communication? And in turn, should retailers be working closer with rival retailers to demystify some of these understandings? Perhaps I can ask that question to the brands first, and whether or not they're receptive to exchanging information on that to try and drive awareness around some of those definitions. Perhaps, Maud, I can go to you first.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, well, obviously this is a very complex issue, as I've alluded to in my slides as well, and it's not easy to solve. And I think the opportunity is here to communicate much better with consumers, but also to advocate for better recycling schemes. Currently, a number of countries are undertaking initiatives in terms of recycling. They're not very similar, and it's very important, I think, that we look to travel retail as a global industry and think about what is it that will work best for our industry. And I think it's actually very similar to the issue around labeling for health. And I think that if we could find a way to communicate to consumers through ways that, well, we can share a bit more information than just on pack, because a pack is very small. It needs to have a lot of information already. How can we find better ways of sharing information that is not on pack and that will allow us to just educate consumers a little bit better? But then on the other end, there's a lot that needs to happen in terms of advocacy for recycling and other things as well. So yes, definitely a lot of work to be done, and also a lot of collaboration needed in the industry.
Thanks, Maud. We know that the associations, particularly the ETRC, has been pushing hard those solutions. I'd like to ask the same question to Rachel there, from your perspective, just echoing what Maud has said. Is there a need for greater collaboration, both with brands, retailers, but other stakeholders, to demystify some of these definitions?
Yeah, I think what Maud said, consumers are confused, and period. And they need every ecosystem that they go into, and every airport they go into ideally should be the same. There needs to be consistency, because the travel experience for most people who work in travel retail, we're comfortable with airports. We navigate them with ease because we spend so much time in them. But for the average traveller, it's quite a stressful experience. So when it comes to things like sustainability, you've got to make it easy and you've got to make it consistent. And I kind of use COVID as a parallel, really, because people don't fly because they don't know what the quarantine is. They don't know whether they should do a test. They don't need to. Every country is different, and therefore that stops them from necessarily getting on a plane and traveling. Sustainability is no different. They won't do something if they don't know what they should do and when they should do it or why they should do it. So I think we need to create, I think Maud's right, we've got to work collaboratively, suppliers, retailers, and airports, physical airports themselves. There needs to be a willingness to share over such an important topic, in my mind, because we've got to make it easy for the consumer, ultimately.
Typically, on just one comment on that, we have started actually a collaboration with huge beverage companies and airports and our Lagardère in order to promote recycling at airports, and it's a lot about the collaboration, because we absolutely need the three parties to get together to come up with concrete solutions and with true solutions, because neither party can find all solutions alone. So we started in one major international platform this collaboration, with the objective again to leverage this platform that would see a huge number of people going through to promote recycling of plastic bottles, but fully in line with what you mentioned about the need to collaborate between the different parties.
Thanks for sharing those thoughts, Ambroise. We've got a question in, quite an interesting one, and it's, I'm sure, sparked quite a lot of debate. It has sparked a lot of debate, certainly the people I've been speaking to the last few months, about balancing the cost implications of investing in more eco-friendly products versus that may be new to market, versus more established heavyweight SKUs that are real volume drivers or revenue drivers. The question is, sustainability is often expensive to invest in. How do we decide where to prioritize our investments in products? I guess, and that one for the suppliers. Perhaps I'll go to Rachel to answer that one first. Or sorry, Maud.
Yes, sure. So what I was going to say is just that for something to be sustainable, it needs to be scalable for us in our case as well. So that's what we look to. And currently we're looking at different solutions, and we're also looking at whether we can scale them and make sure that we can produce them efficiently.
Hey, Rachel, would you like to add any comment on where your investment priorities lie?
I think, I mean, obviously you can see from the things I've talked about, we're having to make considerable capital investment to get us to a better place on a carbon footprint, but then they actually offset quite quickly over a period of 3 to 5 years. So I think it depends on your business and the structure and where your priorities are, but everything has to have a payback. You can't do things without payback. There needs to be and it might be short term and it might be long term. But I think, coming back to James's point, you can take a lot out that reduces costs in one area. You might see an increase in another area, but if you take it out somewhere else, you actually might end up in a neutral position. And that's why you've got to look at the whole sort of supply chain. You can't look at one part in isolation, because some areas will increase costs, but others you can take out. The reduction part is key to actually managing your costs. So there's no perfect solution, but there are costs for us as a business, significant infrastructure costs, but they will pay back over actually a relatively short period of time in terms of capital investment. But every business is different. So you can't, what's right for us isn't necessarily right for another business. So it's difficult.
Before we wrap up, because we're very short on time, there's one question that was raised at the very beginning that came out of the video about the single-use plastic bottles, water bottles, and this question we were discussing with Ambroise in the lead up to this session. I think you have a 2025 goal of eliminating single-use plastics totally across the organization. Is that right, Ambroise?
For consumables, yeah, for consumables, not for product. Just right.
But water obviously is it's a key revenue generator for all retailers as well. But we've seen that how that contributes to the plastic pollution. What's the strategy around that? Is there not a way in which you talk about introducing water fountains, but is there not a revenue model there as well?
I mean, just to add complexity to the discussion, as far as I understand, and based on scientific research, actually, the problem is not plastic bottles per se. The problem is virgin plastic bottles. But if plastic is recycled, then actually recycled PET bottles are less CO2 emission than any other packaging. So and again, we've engaged a lot with on this topic. So today, based on our understanding, what we see is that the priority is really to improve the recyclability of plastic bottles. That's why we're starting to engage with airports in order to promote recyclability. of plastic bottles. And we think this is really the #1 priority, more than banning plastic bottles at airports. Just to give you, so there's one airport today that has banned plastic bottles for water, which is San Francisco. This is 1 year ago. We are operating the travel essentials stores there. And what we have seen actually after the ban is that actually people shifted from drinking water to drinking soda in plastic bottles. Is it better for the global health and environment? I'm not sure, typically. Again, our strategy is more to really promote recyclability and locally create some local campaign in order to promote that in partnership with industrial partners and with airport partners.
Thanks, Ambroise. James, did you want to comment on that at all?
No, it's just, I think it's an interesting point on the commercial bit. I think ships get through something like 200 million bottles a year, plastic bottles. But I think, there is a commercially viable way of doing it, selling it. And when it comes down to it, I think you need to make it easy for consumers, don't you, in all of this? So I think we can look for somebody else for the solution, or we can just ourselves. And to Rachel's point, all of these things don't have to cost us more. There can be very environmentally sound ways that save us money. So I think rather than looking to somebody else, if we look to ourselves and do the right thing as businesses, and be open, I don't want to overly labour the sharing point, but if anyone's got initiatives that they're willing to share through the forum, it would be fantastic. But I think it's often seen as a much harder challenge than it is, because the solutions are out there and they can be commercially effective. It's just a question of getting on with them.
Thanks, James. I'm going to take that as your concluding statement, and I'm going to ask everybody else just very quickly to wrap up with a concluding statement that you want to leave at your takeaway, you from the session, but also what you want to leave with the audience as that low-hanging fruit, if you like, for want of a better word, to say, how can we concretely move forward now as a next step to achieve greater sustainability for the industry? So I'm going to start. Clara, sorry, we haven't heard you from you for a while. We'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to say that as a mindset, we look forward to continue to support the industry in this process by understanding the point of view of the consumer and sharing insights about the expectations, because of course, I think the key to success is also to do things, as you rightly pointed out, that make sense to travelers and that they're able to understand, so that it turns into efficient changes in their consumption pattern. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Clara. Simon, final word from you?
Yeah, very briefly. I think it's been a fantastic session. I hope that what everyone's taken from it is the need for collaboration. It's clear that everyone's doing some really, really great stuff, but actually consistency in what we're doing. Let's get together and agree a set of polymers that we use in plastic that is easy for people to recycle. Let's make this work for us ourselves. Let's ban PVC. Let's try and work together, but we need to work with the airports to make sure when it goes through, it goes to the other. And I think also, some of the initiatives, it's not just about plastic. Plastic is a nice, easy one for people to get hold of. It's tangible. It's the first rung on the ladder, but it's about carbon. There's a big problem out there that is coming, and it's not going away. And we all need to work together on this. So, but thank you for everyone for contributing. And I think there's probably another 150 stories out there very similar that we could all use to help work with retailers, to work with governments to make it come together. Yeah. So
thanks, Simon. Duncan, would you like to make a concluding statement?
Yeah. No, I think more and more of these kind of seminars and initiatives are fantastic, and I think that one of the big takeaways of this is, if we want to achieve something like zero waste, it's not going to be done overnight, and it's going to be a step-by-step approach. But you need to start somewhere. And we've found that once we were on that road towards sustainability or zero waste, you're learning all the time. And yeah, if you're collaborating with other people, things start to move. And so take that first step, and then things start to move and find a way.
Thank you, Duncan. Rachel, would you like to make your final remarks.
I think coming back to what Simon said, the industry's got to work collectively. And as I said, I'm quite new to GTR. I think if I was to have a vision for GTR, is actually not talking about the biggest, shiniest new airport, but talking about the most environmental airport in the world. That would be, if we can make a difference, that's what I would have as a vision at every touch point. But I think the only way that's going to happen is through collaboration and openly sharing about initiatives and also admitting where your challenges are, where you haven't. I love the fact that James went, we haven't solved this, made me feel a bit better, because I thought, actually, we haven't solved it either. But actually, and being honest about where your challenges are, because that's the only way you will move forward. It's probably one area as businesses can be transparent and open and honest. And I think that's would be my big takeout is sharing and transparency amongst ourselves.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for that, Rachel. Maud, would you like to say your piece? What do you want to do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's been very inspiring to hear all of your stories. And what gives me great hope is that we are now sharing them. And I think we are very slowly moving to something like a collective sustainability agenda for this industry. And I think that is very appropriate. And it was great to talk to you all today. And I definitely hope more of these conversations are going to happen, and we'll start to see much more of this.
Thanks, Maud. I'm going to keep that conversation going. And finally, Ambroise, would you like to leave us with your inspirations?
Yeah, just repeating actually what has already been said. I think small steps. I fully agree with this point of start acting now with the small steps in the different departments, organizations. And secondly, I think just how can we leverage this fantastic industry to better educate people? I think on these topics. So this goes back to the collective approach that we mentioned this afternoon.
Thanks, Ambroise. There's some great takeouts there, greater collaboration. It's obviously a long-term initiative, more education, breaking down the barriers. Honesty, I think, as the point you made, being honest about where we are really on things, Rachel, you said. But I think, what's come out of this is that sustainability is really a springboard for greater partnership. And it was Keith Hunter who was saying the other day in one of the sessions that, we've been talking about partnership for years now, but it's just not happening. And maybe this now is the catalyst for moving forward in sustainability, will help us get around the table a bit more and be more transparent and collaborate more. But we will be keeping the conversation going. The fact that we're well over time on this one, and is just proof that there's a lot more to talk about. And we will be doing that. We'll be back with more travel retail sustainability sessions in the coming weeks and months, and we will be taking the conversation forward and trying to get the industry to a better place when it comes to sustainability. Before I finish, I'm going to hand over to Luca. So I would just say thank you very much to all of you for joining us. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, the viewers, for staying on with us. And again, thanks to our sponsor, Duty Free Innovation, for this. And I'll now hand over to Luke for his final words.
Thanks very much, Michael. Thank you to all our panelists. A really riveting discussion. It's great. Certainly what I've taken away is it's absolutely superb that we're moving now towards this notion of collective accountability in the industry. And very much in line with that, as we move forward with the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum and Plastic Pledge, we'll be formulating very much in line with the TRSF manifesto, a series of action points to really galvanise some of these discussion issues and objectives to move forward the agenda. So we welcome all suggestions all suggestions and points that you may like to put forward on behalf of our viewers to this, and obviously we'll amalgamate the discussion points today. Please get in touch with myself and Michael for that. Just a final thank you to our partner, Duty Free Innovation. It's been superb, and all the panelists, thanks for your input. As Michael mentioned earlier, TR Business is moving into its next phase of company-wide development, going green next year with its non-trade show issues it's a big step, and it's one that will no doubt be welcomed. And that's pretty much it from me. Thanks again, everyone, and keep the conversation going. I hope you enjoy the rest of TR Marketplace today. We have another session, I believe. Michael, you can tell me exactly the timings of that. I believe it's 5 o'clock.
Indeed.
And then obviously tomorrow we will have another session to wrap things off. So once again, thank you. Hope to see you all very soon in person, and let's keep this conversation going. It's critically important. Michael.
Thanks very much. That's all. See you soon in about 20 minutes for the next session. Bye-bye.